We've turned back the clocks. There's a war on, don't you know? Welcome to War on the Line. This is In the Loop. Every year, heritage railways across the country turn back to the clocks to show just a little glimpse of what life was like when war took hold of this country. If you go to one of these events, you'll see a variety of attractions, from vintage vehicles to reenactors to displays. And it is an absolutely vital tool to show people just what happened in those times and how the railway helped Britain win the war, and to look back to some of that blitz spirit and nostalgia involved. So join me as we take a look around the railway to see just what you can find on an event like this.
Bless them all, the long and the short and the tall.
One of the brilliant things you'll see at an event like this is a fantastic collection of vintage vehicles, and to talk about them, I brought Mick. Thanks for talking to us. So who are you guys?
We're the 514th Red Bull Express, and we bring these trucks out and show what the US Army done in the way of supplies and fuel and ammunition, the stuff that went on behind the lines more than the front line.
The auxiliary side of things.
That's it, yeah, transport and delivery.
Fantastic. So what have you brought with you today?
Today we've got this duck. It's the first time we've brought it out. We've been working on it for a few years now. Rescued it from an old scrapyard in France, and between me and the rest of the guys, we've managed to drive it the 25 miles down here, all road legal, and made it here, and it didn't overheat, so we're happy.
Fantastic. Have you taken it into the water yet?
Well, we're not quite that far yet. We sort of wanted to make sure we could get it to drive to a lake first before we could...
I suppose, yes, it'll be quite an experience that first time you go in. It's going to be...
It is, yeah. It is pretty watertight, but we've still got a bit more welding to do and such like.
Fantastic. And you brought, I think, old Jeeps and...
Yeah, Jeeps and Dodges down there, and this is a GMC workshop truck, engineering workshop truck, which would have been general maintenance and things like that.
That's super stuff. I say, it's when events like this, I do love seeing an old Jeep, especially on a day like this. Where it's absolutely scorching. Must be absolutely wonderful compared to...
Great going out on the road, yeah.
It'll be absolutely fantastic.
We'll cool you down.
Definitely. Mick, I say, short and sweet, thank you so much for talking to us, and we'll crack on and see what else there is to see at this event. If I were to say the civilian aspect of the wars, you would probably think I was about to talk about rationing, which is very true. Everything was rationed, from clothing, food, resource and material, to try and make most efficient use. There were so many campaigns put out, like Dig for Victory, and my absolute favourite, better to eat potluck than a humble pie, about reusing food, making the most of it. But there is always more to it. So Julie, thank you so much for talking to us. What have you brought with you today?
Yes, well, we've been bombed out, and we've been given a lovely canvas US Army tent. It's all good in this weather, and they're promising us they're going to build some Nissen huts that we can live in. This actually happened at Tintsfield near Bristol, and one family actually lived in their Nissen hut for 9 years on the estate of Tintsfield.
9 years?
So we were told, yeah, so after the war, until they got the prefabs.
Oh, wow.
All right.
So this is really well fitted out. What else have you brought with you today?
We brought our gas mask collection. We got our baby gas mask that they had to use till they were 2. It always belonged to the local council, so when the child was 2, you handed it back to be used for a new baby. And then when they were 2, they ended up with the Mickey Mouse gas mask, which they tried to make more of a toy. So they used bright colours, and like the Mickey Mouse eyes, and the bright blue colour. So you can imagine 2 to 6 or 7-year-olds, and if they blew hard enough, this made a whoopee cushion noise. So you can imagine the children having a game, and that's the Mickey Mouse.
That's ingenious.
And the filter, the green filter, we noticed that all the gas masks have got this green filter on. What we hadn't noticed until this elderly gentleman told us, that when he was issued his gas mask, his mum and everyone in the town went back to their village hall or their police station to have the green one taped on, because that's got asbestos in it. That's why we don't try them on today.
I was thinking asbestos, out of all things to have in a gas, it seems kind of counterintuitive, that stopping one poison with another. Yes,
but they felt the filter would not cope with if it was a different gas. Hitler wanted to, he was very frightened of gas. He had a bad experience in the First World War. He also knew that we were prepared for gas drops, because everyone was issued their gas mask before the war started. So we were very lucky that he did not go with gas on us. He knew we might retaliate as well, and we were prepared.
Fortunate indeed. And you have got quite a collection with you, from ones from newborn babies, where essentially it's just a little pod, up to the ones I would say, normally I'd say at this point no one loved, but frankly no one loves this sort of thing. But I do love just how ingenious they came up with this.
Yes, and when we do Living History, we talk to so many people that were children in the war. We are talking to living history. We do other periods and it's in books. We get told so many stories about the war experiences that it's brilliant.
It's absolutely
we can pass it
fascinating,
on to the children of today.
Julie, thank you so much. And I understand this is your honeymoon.
It is. We got married on Wednesday and we've been together 24 years.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you for showing us
Thank you
around.
very much.
And I think it's about time we head up the line towards Medstead.
Whether the weather may be wet or fine, we'll just rub along without a care. We're gonna hang out the washing on the Siegfried line.
Naturally, the railway had its part to play in all of this. From transporting munitions to evacuating kids to the countryside, they played a vital role with the war effort. And it actually is really fascinating, because in the build-up to all of this, the big four companies, London North Eastern, London Midland Scottish, Southern and Great Western, they were all in competition with each other to try and draw in passengers. They had a race to have the biggest and most powerful engines and the most luxurious carriages for you to ride in. The aim was travel with us, travel with style, comfort, and get to your destination quicker. And just like that, it all changed to don't travel with us unless your journey is absolutely necessary. Freight got priority from now on. A few other things changed. A lot of trains stopped running at night because, frankly, if you're a German bomber flying overhead, a really good clue to where a railway is a lovely little string of lights weaving through the countryside. So day running was the way forward. Now, a few trains did run at night, so they made some modifications. We needed to stop emitting light wherever possible, so station lamps were a start. They also covered over the signs, so the theory being, if any enemy troops landed, it would be harder to find out where they were. The catch was, if you were on the train wanting to get off the station, you suddenly lost your point of reference. Damn. Another modification they did was painting things white, like kiosks, poles, and platform edges, so you don't fall off into the track. Another interesting thing that happened, which was pretty revolutionary, was a lot more women became involved in the railways when the men were sent off to fight wars. In the First World War, there was still quite a stigma of women in the railways. No, they shouldn't get their hands dirty. They should be purely administrative or clean. So they were limited, but in the Second World War, that completely changed. Women found themselves in foundries, signal boxes, working on the trackside, jobs that were seen to be really male-dominated, and it really was absolutely revolutionary. And along with all of these changes, there was one which I, as a fireman, think is pretty horrific. Something you may not have thought about in the spirit of reducing the emittance of light from a train would be the locomotive itself. Now, the biggest emitter of light on one of these is the fire. Kind of sounds obvious. So what they did was to completely cover over the cab with cloth and sheeting to try and stop that emittance of light. And the concept sounded pretty well sound. Stop the emittance of light. However, there was a little bit of a snag. Today, the day we're filming this, the temperature is about 27 degrees and sweltering, to say the least. On a locomotive today, the crew will be spending most of their time with their head out the window trying to cool themselves down. Now just imagine for a second taking that engine and completely covering up all of those windows and reducing the air supply to pretty much nothing. You've now turned that engine into an oven. Not my idea of fun, gonna be honest with you. And that's just one of the many ways the railways helped the war effort. Some a bit more uncomfortable than others. Now, I could be pedantic and a little bit nerdy at this point, but it wasn't just standard gauge railways which helped with the war effort. Narrow gauge and miniature also played their part. Used their own munitions factories and getting resources to the front line. Light railways and narrow gauge railways were absolutely fantastic because you could just lay track down and pretty much run a train across them, and they were fantastically useful, especially when you considered how kind of boggy and muddy it is. Having railways like this really did make a difference. While we're here, one question we got asked is when does a miniature become a narrow gauge? Now I believe the gauge where it changes over is about 330 millimeters, which is about 13 inches. Anything above that is narrow gauge and falls under the remit of the Office of Road and Rail. Anything below that is miniature, which is a health and safety executive. Well, that's roughly how it works anyway. Do you have steady hands, nerves of steel, and are willing to look death in the face? No, me neither, but the bomb disposal squad did just that. It's widely believed that over a third of the bombs dropped in the Battle of the Somme failed to go off. Now this could seem like a blessing, but a blessing in disguise. For if a bomb doesn't go off at impact, there's nothing to say it won't go off at all. Now the bomb disposal squad here have brought in a vast collection and have shown us interesting ways of defusing a bomb. Let me introduce you to Cliff. Cliff, thank you so much for talking to us. So before we talk about all of this, who are you guys?
So we're the 25th Bomb Disposal Living History Group, and we demonstrate the defusing of bombs during the 1940s.
Fantastic. So I understand there's many ways to defuse a bomb, but one including sugar. How
Yes.
does that work?
Yes, the Stevenson stopper was invented by an RAF officer early on during the 1940s. Basically, it creates a vacuum within the fuse by using the device in front of you, and then you turn over the valve, and it introduces water and sugar into the fuse, clogging up the works.
Fantastic. That's something I've never considered, essentially pouring golden syrup into a bomb.
That's right, and the guys, when they were first given this kit, were sending in their reports saying what they were using and how it was going, and the boffins noticed that they were using far too much sugar, and they sent 3 men. It took them 4 months to work out what was going on.
What was going on? How do they use so much sugar?
Well, it wasn't that the capacities were wrong, the guys were taking it home.
I suppose, considering it was rationed, it was if it wasn't nailed down, or...
That's right, yeah, they took the sugar home and sold it to people or gave it to their sweethearts and wives to make cakes and things with it.
Definite sweet treat, although an interesting use for it, Cliff. Thank you so much for talking to us. You really do have a fantastic collection, and you've been doing talks about all of this the whole weekend, and it has really been fascinating to listen to.
Thank you.
So, let's crack on and have a look at what else we can find here at the railway. Of course, at an event like this, you are not just going to find our British forces. You'll find here reenactors of our Soviet counterparts. Fredrik Bausch, thank you so much for talking to us. So first of all, who are you guys?
So we are Soviet reenactors currently doing an impression for the 80th anniversary of Operation Barbarossa, which is the German invasion of the Soviet Union on June 22nd, 1941.
Oh, interesting stuff. So what have you brought with you? You've brought quite a collection, I see, but can you take us around a few items?
Yeah, sure. So obviously, personal-wise, we've got a couple of people in infantry uniforms, a couple of people in marksman uniforms, a railway troop,
just a railway troop,
and then some partisans. It gives us a cross-section of the kind of Soviet infantry that you might see in 1941 USSR, because it's more diverse than just everyone's a soldier. You've got obviously rear line and second line troops, and we've got some guys doing a really good impression of that. Not to mention, of course, as we're on a railway, the guys actually transporting us to the front, that being the railway troops.
So Bausch, I noticed you've got some flags with you. Is that because of railway? Is it railway signalling related, or?
Well, it's partly a bit of both, as well as for tank movers, but it has also been used for railway shunting purposes, as well as dispatching freight trains at railway depots.
Did I hear you say it's also for tank purposes?
Well, yes, they used it for before the use of radio on tanks, so they would have used this for sort of signalling manoeuvres for moving tanks.
I have to admit, I can't imagine anything more terrifying about a tank coming towards you, just you holding 2 flags and hoping for the
They would
best.
have sort of simple procedures for sort of...
I've done it and it's terrifying.
I think the thing I love the most about this event is that it's not just about artifacts, items. Yes, there are some fantastic, either authentic or fantastic recreations, but it goes further. It's about people, both civilian and military, what different people did in the time of a world war, and how everyone came together in the darkest hour to pull through it together. They say those who fail to learn history are doomed to make the same mistakes over and over again. And we can't deny all of this did happen. But the Blitz spirit, that feeling of working together and doing your little part, really did make the difference. For example, the station master here at Alresford, Mr. Compton at the time, he decided his contribution to the war effort would be to grow tomatoes, and boy did he. He planted a mountain of tomato vines where the West Country Buffet is standing now, since that wasn't there at the time. And he did reportedly comment that even though they were accessible, it didn't prove too much for the temptation for the travelling public. And it's little stories like that that really make events like this what they are today. And I think that Blitz spirit of working together to get out of the darkest times can still be taken on today. Not just with a pandemic, but with everything that happens around the world. Food for thought. Thank you for watching, guys. Stay safe, and to play us out, I'd like to introduce you to Stephanie Bell, one of the fantastic vocalists we had here at the Watercress line. See you next time.
The weather may be wet or fine, we'll just rub along without a care. We're gonna hang out the washing on the Siegfried line, if the Siegfried line's still there. We're gonna hang out the washing on the Siegfried line. Have you any dirty washing, mother dear? We're gonna hang out the washing on the Siegfried line, 'cause the washing day is here. Whether the weather may be wet or fine, we'll just rub along without a care. We're gonna hang out the washing on the Siegfried line, if the Siegfried line's still there. Kiss me goodnight, Sergeant Major, and tuck me in my little wooden bed. We all love you, Sergeant Major. When we hear you bawling, show a leg. And don't forget to wake me in the morning, and bring me round a nice hot cup of tea. So kiss me goodnight, Sergeant Major. Sergeant Major, be a mother to me. Kiss me goodnight, Sergeant Major. Tuck me in my little wooden bed. We all love you, Sergeant Major. When we hear you bawling, show a leg. Don't